Yeah, thank you so much, Fatima, for joining us. You're our first alumni who signed up for the interview, and we really appreciate that because, like I mentioned in my mail, that students are always keen to know the insights of what's going on in the industry and what do they need to actually enter the industry. So we
Yeah,
have a list of questions for you. Um, Take your
no
time. If you
problem.
need time to bring your thoughts together and just go ahead, take your time. No problem. Um, my first
Mhm.
question is, tell us about your career path. How things unfolded for you. How did you reach where you are right now, working at HelloFresh? What was your first job? How did you end up getting it? Give us a little brief about your journey.
Okay, sure. So my name is Fatema Bastawala. I was just like you guys, an international student with
Mm-hmm.
very big dreams. So I had good grades. My first job actually was at Centennial College Chemistry Lab. I was one of the
Oh,
technicians.
okay.
Then
Mm-hmm.
I was tutoring on the side in school as well.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I got into CFI for my second co-op. My first co-op was Centennial College Chemistry Lab. I used to do a lot of setup for organic chemistry and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of analytical chemistry, which is Jillian's subject. I
Yeah.
hope Jillian is still teaching you that.
Yes, we did.
Jillian,
We were with her in the third semester, like the last semester. Yeah, she's fun.
yeah, yeah. And now you might be working with Andrew Goring, who
Not
used
yet.
to, yeah. So I used to work with both of them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I started. And then I switched to CFI. I was a microbiologist there, a microbiologist technician for a while. And from
Mm-hmm.
there, I got my basics for the industry. I came
Mm-hmm.
back to school for just one semester, finished my schooling, and then went back to school. And I actually used to go to a lot of fairs, and I still tell students or all the alumni I meet, like, if you guys want to actually find a dream job in your field, try going to like trade fairs and trade shows. There are a lot of trade shows where a lot of food suppliers. For me, it was food industry because that was something I learned from CFI. So I was comfortable getting into food industry. The same goes for pharmaceutical. There are a lot of pharmaceutical trade shows. You guys can go and
Mm-hmm.
meet their marketing team. They are always there. And marketing team is like a link, a direct link to the company, to any company. So you can give out your resume. If you are not comfortable in your first meet to give out your resume, you can always give out your LinkedIn. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can take their LinkedIn, go from there. And that's how I landed my first job in a small bakery. But
Mm-hmm.
that bakery then was merged with Frito Lay, and I started working for Frito Lay as a technician. From there,
Okay.
I worked there for a while, and then I switched to Sofina Foods, which is like one of the biggest industries for a protein. So anything that is chicken, meat, beef. It
Mm-hmm.
was not a slaughterhouse, but it was for RTE, ready to eat.
Okay.
So I didn't work at a
Okay.
slaughterhouse facility, but
Mm-hmm.
I worked for ready to eat facility. So the end
Okay.
product of the facility.
Okay.
Worked there for a while. I was I was hired as a technician, became a HACCP coordinator. Then
Mm-hmm.
moving on from there, I worked there for a while, like two or three. I don't remember the years now on top of my head, but 3 years. Then I moved to seafood industry because I felt like that is my next move, and I wanted to learn the industry before I became a manager. I wanted to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I know so much about my industry that when I become a manager and when I
Mm-hmm.
give out any answers, I should be very confident about it. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't throw out random answers. And so I worked on the floor, started technician, I was always on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Coordinator goes lesser on the floor, but more on the regulatory end. So did that. Then I became a supervisor for Toppets Food, which is a seafood industry. Worked there, learned everything about seafood industry, new regulations. Then went to meat industry, then turned to seafood industry, did all of that gathering. And now for HelloFresh Canada, I work as a quality and technical manager. I give my technical insights basically on
Mm-hmm.
grocery. That's my category. And
Okay.
HelloFresh Market, which is ready to eat again. I am going where I started from. Like I know everything about ready to eat because that's how I started my career. And I
Mm-hmm.
started diving into ready to eat again because that's what I was comfortable in because I knew how ready to eat products work. And because
Mm-hmm.
protein is considered one of the most like riskiest product as a
Yeah.
SKU
Okay.
because it has the highest regulation, right? People can end
Mm-hmm.
up with listeria, salmonella, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you master protein or if you master meat industry, you can
Mm-hmm.
master any other food industry. That's a thumb rule. And I
Okay.
understand that it's challenging and meat
Mm-hmm.
industry is very accepting. They will accept you. So don't be afraid of not becoming a like not like, oh, how do I deal with meat? There will be blood on the floor. There is no blood on the floor. First of
Yeah, that's the
all, you will make
usual expectations from such jobs. Like, oh, yeah, hygiene
oh,
is a
I will
problem.
be
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I've always seen like people being like, "Oh, I have to touch blood," and I'm like, "I've never touched blood." And if you are
Okay.
touching blood, then something is off.
Yeah.
You should never touch blood. Right.
That was such an impressive journey, like a very inspirational one, because that shows like you kept on working hard to get to a position and you had a goal. Um, Following that journey of yours, I have a few questions. Like you mentioned about
Mhm.
pharmaceutical trade shows and food trade shows. Like where did you find about these shows? Like where do you would suggest students would go and learn about these shows so that they can attend and go there?
You can just Google it. That's what I did.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
called like food. It's like a lot of RC. It's called RC shows. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can just type exhibitions, and I knew because I lived here in Canada for a long time. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the thing was it's always in like auditorium and like if you reach out to a lot of people and you are like using LinkedIn a lot, people are always attending.
Okay.
So they always keep on tagging each other. So somewhere down the line, you'll figure it out. Oh, there's this trade show going on. There's this trade show, and you can always Google like food trade shows, pharmaceutical trade shows, and the list will appear for Canada. That's what I
Oh,
did at least back
sure.
in the day. I am like
So being active
I
on, yeah.
so back in the day, it looks like it. Like I don't know what new generation goes to. Honestly, I am like 10 years. This is like 10 to 12 years ahead of
Okay.
what I did. So I
Mhm.
honestly don't know. Maybe you guys might watch TikToks and get the info. I don't know.
Yeah, TikTok is the new LinkedIn, I guess. But yeah, I
Why
mean,
not?
looks like being active on LinkedIn is a very good approach to networking and getting to know
Mm-hmm.
about the field, right? That's how
Yeah.
you did it. Okay.
Yes.
So following your LinkedIn, we see a very impressive work experience, and one of the experience that I'm very curious about is the lab demonstrator at University of Toronto. Like, can you tell us like what were your job responsibilities when you were volunteering over there?
It's such a long time. So when I was at Centennial, I made sure that honestly, I was one of the students who liked studying. So I took a lot of so I took like 2 or 3 courses of UFT on the side
Mm-hmm.
because why not? You can do that. I would not suggest you to do that, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just I came out of CFI and I wanted to prove it to myself because when I was working at CFI, a lot of students that were as co-ops, I was the only one from Centennial. Everybody else
Okay.
was mostly from UFT. So I was like, oh, I want to do what they are studying. I want to see
Mm-hmm.
their world. So I took one of 2 or 3 bio courses just
Mm-hmm.
to figure out like what's going on. Did that, and during that there was one of the chance I got from actually Centennial where I took students to UFT. I it's such a long time ago, but UFT
Mm-hmm.
was holding a lot of like summits, and I was one of the volunteer who volunteered at that place and gathering students, showing
Okay.
them UFT, showing them
Mm-hmm.
the library and stuff like that. Like, do you want to study at UFT at the end? Like, is it your goal?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I did as a lab demonstrator, and I showed them like how UFT labs look like, what are you going to study, what are the agars, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, like
So it
a
was like
typical
a
bio lab.
one day volunteering, right? It seems like.
It was like couple of days, like it
Okay.
used to
Mm-hmm.
happen like over the months where I was
Mm-hmm.
picked for several days. That's what
Okay.
has happened.
Okay. Yeah, so my next question would be what skills have you used since you graduated, and what skills would you suggest students to develop during their college years?
Communication.
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 How how you guys, sometimes I receive a lot of emails and responses from
Mm-hmm.
students, and I can tell right away that it is a student emailing me sometimes, because it's the tone they use on the email. You are not uh emailing your friend. You cannot just be like, "Hi, Fatima, this is not
Mm-hmm.
how you portray yourself, right? You have to sell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start your comment like, "Hi, how are you? I've seen you this," just like
Mm-hmm.
how you wrote your email. Let's say one of the good emails I got was yours. I
Thank
liked
you.
it, and I was like really impressed. I was like, yes, this girl knows what she's talking about. So this is how you write, right? You just do
Mm-hmm.
not put your words out there. You have to
Mm-hmm.
like sugarcoat it, because that's how politely you can speak out. Like you cannot be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, I want to go on coffee chat with you." No, I will.
Yeah, that's not the right
I'm not.
approach.
Yeah, that's like a very illogical ask. Like,
True.
and some of the students I have like even followed up on LinkedIn. They have reached out and they're like, "Oh, let's hi Fatima, I want to connect with you. I want to chat with you, and I want to have a coffee chat." And then I give them options like, "Do you want to meet in person? Do you want to do a phone call? You want to
Mm-hmm.
meet in person? Then I suggest this place because I work in downtown."
Mm-hmm.
Rather, and after me doing and suggesting all five places, they do not respond back. So this is,
That's
I'm
true.
like, yeah, it's honestly, yes, it's true,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because somebody has put an effort to create an
Exactly. Yes.
itinerary which is
Mm-hmm.
honestly at the end going to help you. So that is
Yeah.
how I feel like you have to understand that you have to follow up. Even though it's annoying, you have to follow up. You have to keep people updated on minute by
Mm-hmm.
minute, just like how you did it. Like, I wasn't able to log in to my account, give me a minute, I'll be back.
Yeah.
And it's like that gives me like less of anxiety, like, oh,
Yeah.
was I
Why aren't
not
you
supposed to
responding?
enter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
keep
True.
people in loop, and that's how industry works as well. Like, you are in contact with people and you don't respond, and you then suddenly respond, shows your lack of
Yeah.
responsiveness.
True.
You have to keep people, your team. If you are a leader, you have to lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to micromanage, but lead. There are two types of leaders again, a
Mm-hmm.
micromanager and a leader. You don't want to be a micromanager where
Micro.
you are getting a minute to minute, like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? What
Mm-hmm.
are you doing? Instead, you be like, hey, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do it? And what's the timeline? So that is something that's how I work, I guess. And to your question, this is how I see, and this is what like students lack, like leadership skills. And I think that will build over time. But yeah, work on communication, work on your leadership skills. You can easily get that. Like, it's so easy,
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean, the
can
club
develop it.
itself, exactly. The club
Yes.
itself has so many events going on, and we're always looking for leaders, and we're giving students opportunity to take up those leadership positions. And so, would you suggest students should continue doing that, right? Students should take those leadership skills, even if they are at a very student club position.
Yeah,
To
why not?
yeah,
Because they help, right? Because I
exactly.
even me, like I used to run as a president. I started running the bios club. I used to run that
Oh,
back in my days.
okay.
Where, and that's where I learned my leadership. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
how I learned, like basically how to network, because I used to do that to gather some money for the events. And
Mm-hmm.
together, like just how you reached out to alumni, I used to reach out, right?
Yeah.
And that's how networking built and things happened and things fell in place, and it's a domino effect. It falls and it falls, and then yeah, you get what you get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on to the next question.
Mhm.
So I'm sure your career was not that easy. You always had challenges. Can you like tell us about the challenges you have faced being in the field?
I had a very challenging journey.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with me being graduated, I was hired as a technician. Started my first day in a very small company, and suddenly I was told, along with my duties as a QA technician, I am also supposed to work on the line. And I was taken aback. I was like, okay, what's happening? Was I supposed to do that? Oh, is this the check?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that is how I started my journey. Understood like what my role is within those 3 months, and then I was like, okay, this is not how a technician works, from my friends, and we can figure it out from there. Going forward, like my second job, I started working in the meat industry and it was very new. Even like just how now I say like communication, communication, communication. I lacked at that skill, like
Mm-hmm.
majorly. I didn't know how to speak to people, I didn't know how to talk to people, how to respond to your subordinates, co-subordinates, or even your supervisors or managers. I didn't know how to like understand or to speak in a way that they understand. So that was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And and one thing, I myself am a big people pleaser. So for me, I have to please everyone, like everyone. And I the biggest challenge for me still is like I fall under this tab that everybody has to like me.
Oh my God,
And
that's so true.
sometimes at
That's the
work,
same thing with me.
it's a lot of people. It Trust me, it's a very known fact, and a lot of people feel that way. And they are always like, everybody has to like me. And during your work offset, you should have a personality where you should be okay with people not liking you, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you have a job of a QA, because QA is someone who brings in a different perspective, who can stop things
Yeah.
when the danger is unknown. We are someone who is 10 steps ahead of a danger, that we can predict
Mm-hmm.
danger. In order to
Mm-hmm.
explain to people, sometimes it becomes unreasonable. So they don't like your work per se, and they sometimes will make comments about your work like, hey, you are too strict, or hey, why are you being so strict? And
Mm-hmm.
like your people pleaser comes out and you're like, no, 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 it's fine, I'll do your way. But that's incorrect, right? So
Yeah.
I was always in that dilemma, but over time I have developed the responsibility and a persona where I'm okay. Like if you don't
Mm-hmm.
like my work, or if you don't like me, that's fine.
I'm doing my job.
My work is work, and my
Exactly.
personality, like personal personality, is something different.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
do not mix your, you should always have your work personality and your real personality. Your real personality is something else, but your work personality, as per your work, should govern you. Like if your work says that you have to be detail oriented, then you have to make sure that you are detail oriented and you are going word by word. Like
Mm-hmm.
even though you are someone who is an avid reader and likes to read novels, and you are just skipping lines. So that are two different people in my mind, and it takes a lot of effort to go there. But yeah, it's achievable, and as long as you're comfortable and you like what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest challenge I had in my journeys, sometimes I couldn't figure out what I liked, right? And a lot of people go through this, like, what do I like working? Like, do I even like my field? I've asked that question so many times to myself, like, do I like my work? Do I like my
Mm-hmm.
work? But over time, when you start working and you start getting comfortable and
Mm-hmm.
you know a bit about your field, you'll get more and more into the field and you'll find one distinct role that will fit to your personality
Mm-hmm.
and you'll love that role. But in order to reach that role, you have to try 15 different roles. And like just how I did, like I didn't stick to one industry for sure. I went to multiple industries and then figured out, okay, this is what I like. And do not be like a person who is like sticking for 10 years to the
Mm-hmm.
same industry and being like, oh, I don't like this field and I hate working at what I do. But you didn't try anything else. So what's the point of
Exactly.
complaining, right? So try
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Like stop being so comfortable in what you're doing. Like try to explore the other options too, to know where you fit the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like definitely. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
something I learned. So I was always like, let's not stick to one thing. Let's figure out
Mm-hmm.
everything I like. So right now I work for grocery. I did protein. I did like all protein SKUs. I did a lot of seafood. And
Mm-hmm.
then I realized like maybe I like cakes.
Yeah.
And now I do like a lot of grocery SKUs, which is like cakes and like pastries and whatnot. I do a lot of seafood and protein too. Grocery
Mm-hmm.
conducts a lot of things like that. But yeah, I get best of both worlds. Now I can just work on cookies and choco cookies because that's what I like.
Lovely. Um, yeah. So next question is, what have you learned in the industry that you wish you learned while you were in school and college?
Oh, that whatever you are going to learn in your school, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the curriculum is right now,
Mm-hmm.
but back in the day when I took courses, a lot of course, like a lot of work that you will do in your school is not going to exactly translate into your work. Like your
Mm-hmm.
work is not going to be identical to what you study.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you'll study the basic concepts, it is
Mm-hmm.
just basic concepts at the end. You are going to grow and learn a lot. So whatever you're going to learn is all going to be hands on. If you're going in the food industry, I do
Mm-hmm.
not know about pharmaceutical, I cannot talk about it. But for
Mm-hmm.
food industry, whatever you learn from school is just a concept. Whatever you're going to learn in the industry is going to be a hands on, like I would say, a lot and lot of hands-on work, and
Mm-hmm.
your most important development is going to happen on the floor. So do not rush yourself into into directly applying for a supervisor, because once people will ask questions and you will not have
You will not
answers.
know exactly. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So don't like learn the basics and then fight the bigger battle. It will be much more easier to fight.
Yeah. Um, I'm sure like you must have gone through a lot of job portals and doing a lot of job searching through postings. Any advice for students who are going to graduate and they're going to look for a job, or students especially who are in co-op right now,
Mhm.
who will be applying for their co-op jobs? Any advice for those students?
Yes. Biggest advice, find HRs of every company and add them on LinkedIn. All my jobs, I've always gotten it from LinkedIn. Honestly, eh, I knew what I was good at. I knew I was a sweet talker and I knew I
Mm-hmm.
was good at communication. So I
Yeah.
used that towards my benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I added every single HR of every single company I knew. From those HR, I started adding people who were in the same role I was looking for. Like, let's say I'm looking for a technician role. I started
Mm-hmm.
looking for people who were technician in the same company. Reached out to them and asked them like, "Hey, what's the culture of this company that you are working on? Is there any openings?" And sometimes there are internal postings, and they
Mm-hmm.
can refer you, and you can directly swoop in. So do two things. Add the HR of the company, reach out to them. If they don't respond, but I would say do both the things simultaneously. Add the HRs of the company you like and you don't like, because you don't know what the work culture is.
Mm-hmm.
So don't try to guess unless you speak to someone from that company, and start adding people who are in the same position as you and in like above position. Sometimes the QA manager, if you are looking for a QA job, let's say, so sometimes a QA manager might not add you, but the technician is definitely going to add you, because the technician is just 1 or 2 years senior than you in the role.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They can easily.
Yeah. Okay. So adding HRs and being in contact with the current employees, making connections through them. That's the advice, right?
Yes, and adding someone who is in the same position of what you're looking at, rather than employees. Look for people who are what, like if you're looking for a QA technician job, add people who are already QA technicians there. They can tell you a better picture.
Okay. Students who do not apply for co-op, what suggestions do you have for them so that they can get work experience while studying?
So while studying, if they want a work experience, it's not like there are a lot of people that I know in food industry have worked in the industry, but not as a QA. They start with agencies and are on the line
Mm-hmm.
during work, and they are really good at production, like how to prepare meals or whatever industry they work in. And they are so used to working for the same product that when they graduate with a food industry or food side degree, they already know what the product is and how it is made. So they just have to apply that food logic to it and apply for a QA. And maybe they'll get it faster than these normal people who will straight apply to QA, because they already know
Yeah.
the.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So basically, like entering the in the company and then
Yeah,
finding their way from there.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are so many food industries who always look for labor, and like you can
Oh.
I was a labor and I'm really proud of it. I've done a lot of shifts at my
Mm-hmm.
time. I
Mm-hmm.
think to get like my part time out of it. Did some of it, but got an idea like how food industry actually works.
Okay. And what is the right time for you? Sorry, what is the right time for the students to start applying for jobs?
6 months, 8 months before. Right now, if they are graduating next year, they should already start applying.
6, 8 months before graduation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
the industry is going, I would suggest like even a year before, because the market is volatile right now. I
Mhm.
remember I got my job like really quickly, but that's not the scenario right now, right? So you have to work with the scenarios.
Great, Fatima. That was my last question for you. It was so insightful because I didn't know about trade shows. I didn't know about connecting through HR and current employees. Um, that was really good, and I hope that we can meet you in person sometime. We could have like an in-person event probably.
Yes,
Um,
yes. One has created something for me, because I've met some
mhm.
of the students recently, and I think they wanted me. So I'll be seeing the students in person as well. I think
Oh,
in
that's
June.
great. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You guys, like, and I would love to chat, but don't be shy. If you make plans with me, please stick with the plans. If you want to work
Yes.
in like, in downtown, let's meet and let's
Mm-hmm.
drink a. I'm down.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.